Stolen Legacy, Part 5. But our disturbed race relations have also another cause. This, I would say, is both supplementary and intensive, for the false tradition about the backwardness of the African continent created by Alexander the Great and Aristotle's school has been dramatized by missionary literature and exhibitions as the will of Roman emperors and as a source of laughter and disrespect. There is no doubt that this policy has created bitterness and dissatisfaction in the minds of natives who have been compelled to question insincerity of the missionary. In the meantime, missionary enterprise gains the sympathy and support of a miseducated world in order to carry on its program. What can we do to eradicate this second and more subtle evil? The dramatization of a false tradition so as to make it appear as true? I suggest that the missionary dramatizes false tradition because he himself also believes it. We will combine our efforts, first of all, in re-educating him so that he might know the truth and changes his superiority complex, which is responsible for his mistaken policy. His re-education should not only consist of a thorough study of the ideas and arguments contained in my book, Stolen Legacy, but must also be given special training in the language, customs, and ideas of Africans in order to make him cultivate an attitude of respect for the culture of the African continent, seemingly the oldest specimen to have been developed by mankind, because that continent is the birthplace and the cradle of the ancient mysteries, with a world enlightened as to the real truth about the place of the African continent in the history of civilization. False tradition and belief should cease to be effective. Disrespect and prejudice should tend to disappear, and race relations should tend to be normal and peaceful. This brings to us the final problem, the problem of the African redemption. The aims of Stolen Legacy are not only to stimulate a reformation in race relations and scientific research, but also to cultivate race pride in Black people themselves and to offer them a new philosophy of African redemption as the modus operandi of achieving racial reformation. This new philosophy of redemption consists of a simple proposition as follows. The Greeks were not the authors of Greek philosophy, but Black people of North Africa, the Egyptians. Now, in order to explain the value of this proposition, 3 questions must be asked and answered. A simple proposition. What is its significance? Its significance lies in the fact that it is a statement of important truth, which is the exposure of Greek dishonesty. B, why is this proposition called a philosophy? A philosophy is an accepted belief, and this proposition is a philosophy because it is offered as a belief worthy of acceptance. C, what is a philosophy of redemption? A philosophy of redemption is not merely an accepted belief, but a belief that is also lived in order to enjoy the benefits of its teachings. This proposition will become a philosophy of redemption to all Black people when they accept it as belief and live up to it. This brings us to our final question, and that is how to live up to this philosophy or redemption. In other words, how shall the Black people work out their own salvation? From the outset, my readers and co-workers in the solution of a common problem must be reminded that our philosophy of redemption is a psychological process involving a change in belief or mentality to be followed by a corresponding change in behavior. It really signifies a mental emancipation in which the Black people will be liberated from the chain of traditional falsehood, which for centuries has incarcerated them in the prison of inferiority complex and world humiliation and insult. This mental emancipation or redemption, it must be remembered, has 2 functions. It is general, when, on one hand, the phenomenon of our unwholesome race relations is regarded as a general problem, needing a general emancipation of both races in order to effect a solution. In this general sense, emancipation transcends the limitations and boundaries of race and therefore includes the whole world. White and black people, since we are all victims of the same chain of the traditional falsehood that has incarcerated the modern world. On the other hand, emancipation or redemption is specific when we refer to the effects of the phenomenon of unwholesome race relations upon the black people. It is freedom from such conditions that constitutes the specific function of emancipation or redemption. We digress somewhat in order to explain the terms philosophy and philosophy of redemption, believing it to be necessary before proceeding to answer the next question: how to live up to this new philosophy of redemption, how it must be worked out. Being liberated from inferiority complex by their new philosophy of redemption, which is destined to destroy the chain of tradition which has incarcerated them, the black people must face and interpret the world according to their new vision and philosophy. Throughout the histories up to our modern times, world traditions have been influenced by two phenomena which have affected human relations. 1. The giving of false praise to the Greeks, a custom which appears to be an educational policy conducted by educational institutions. This has led to the false worship of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle as intellectual gods in all the leading universities, of the world, and in support of this intellectual worship, these institutions have also organized what are known as Greek lettered fraternities and sororities as the symbols of the superiority of Greek intellect and culture. 2. The second phenomenon is missionary enterprise, which by the black people's culture has been caricatured in literature and exhibitions in such specimens as provoked disrespect and laughter. Never let us forget that the Roman emperors Theodosius and Justinian were responsible for the abolition of the Egyptian mysteries, that it is the cultural system of black people, and also for the establishment of Christianity for its perpetual suppression. Likewise, never let us forget when we are reviewing this bit of history that the Greeks called the Egyptians hoi agutoi, which means black people. In living up to their new philosophy of redemption, the life of the black people will have to be one of counter-reaction against these two sets of condition. In the first place, the black people must adopt a negative attitude toward this type of phenomenon because they have become fully aware that these phenomena are the results of a false tradition and therefore also partake of the nature of falsehood and insincerity. In this negative attitude, the black people of the world must shun the false tradition and must teach the truth, which is their new philosophy of redemption. This must be done in the home to young children, in the colleges and schools of students, from the pulpits and platforms to audiences, and in the fraternities and sororities to young men and women. This new philosophy of redemption, being a revelation of truth in the history of black people's civilization, must become a necessary portion of their education and must be taught for generations and centuries to come in order to fill them with inspiration and pride and liberate them from the mental servitude. In the second place, in this negative attitude, the black people must demonstrate their belief in the false worship of Greek intellect. This should be done in the following three ways. 1. They must discontinue the practice of quoting Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle in their speeches as intellectual models, because we know that their philosophy was stolen. 2. They must relinquish membership from all Greek letter fraternities, because we know that their philosophy was stolen. They must relinquish membership from all Greek letter fraternities and sororities. And 3, they must abolish all Greek letter fraternities and sororities from all colored colleges because they have been a source of promotion of inferiority complex and of educating the black people against themselves. We come now to the counter-reaction of the second set of phenomena, the missionary activities and defamatory literature and exhibitions which provoke disrespect and laughter at the black people. Just as in the first set of phenomena, so it is in the second. The black people must adopt a negative attitude in their attempt to live up to their philosophy of redemption. Of course, they are perfectly well aware that the activities of missionaries are the result of their own miseducation through the medium of a false tradition about black people. But since their problem is also one of emancipation from certain social evils, the black people feel that they are entitled to change in missionary policy. For these, I suggest that the negative attitude of black people should consist first of a boycott of missionary literature and exhibitions, and secondly of a perpetual protest against these forms of missionary policy until a change is brought about. For as long as a missionary enterprise maintains its policy of militancy against African culture, the black people will be disrespected. This is the least that the black people are entitled to, respectful treatment, because they are the representative of the oldest civilization in the world from which all other cultures have borrowed. I have frequently seen in the parish magazines of some European churches pictures of the following descriptions: an African chief dressed in a new silk hat, a long shirt but no trousers, a frock coat, and barefoot, probably to provide amusement for the parishioners and to excite their pity. This is what the black people must protest against, and this is how they must live up to their philosophy of redemption and work it out. In conclusion, let us remember that the unfortunate position of the modern church is being associated with the drama of Greek philosophy is excusable because her missionary function has been due to the erroneous mandates and edicts of secular prince and emperors who ruled the church when it was only a department of state. This bit of ecclesiastical history should be well known to the early branches of the Christian church, and consequently, they are the ones whom our enlightened age expects to initiate a change in the missionary policy, which would free themselves from the error and superstition of human relations. This lead of the various branches of Catholicism should be followed by Protestantism, so that the entire Church of Christ on earth should be united in this racial reformation and carry to the mission field a practical gospel of happiness. That is happiness that must begin while we are here on earth, a gospel that is interested in the total welfare of the people, a gospel which ignores the social and economic rights of natives and emphasizes only happiness in an unknown world is one-sided, misleading, and contrary to the Christian tenets and practice. It was early Christianity that established a diachonic for the express purpose of solving the economic problems of its adherents, so that they might begin in their earthly life to experience what happiness really meant. It is evident that the benefits of religion are intended to be coextensive with human needs, and unless the Christian religion changes its missionary policy with respect for the culture of the black people, it would be difficult for them to obtain complete emancipation from the social injuries created by ancient Rome.
We rockin' MOPOWERZ. Up jumps the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Up jumps the boogie. the boogie to the bang, bang boogie. Up jumps the boogie to the bang, bang boogie. We rockin' MOPOWERZ, powers, powers. We rockin' MOPOWERZ, powers. MOPOWERZ. 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 Up jumps the boogie to the bang, bang boogie. I cut off your head, nigga. One time for your mind, this is what I said, nigga. You see red, MOPOWERZ. 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 MOPOWERZ.